I wasn't supposed to be home that afternoon. Maybe that's why they were so careless, voices drifting up from Dad's study like smoke through the floorboards. I'd come back early from my shift at the gallery, paint still crusted under my fingernails from helping Theo reorganize his studio. The house was quiet except for those voices. Mom's high-pitched protests, Dad's measured tone, and Livia's familiar whine. It's not like she's actually going to art school, Livia was saying. Be realistic. Calla's little paintings are cute, but they're not going to pay the bills. I froze on the stairs, one hand gripping the banister. Through the crack in the door, I could see Mom perched on the edge of Dad's leather chair, her perfect posture betraying her tension. The money's already set aside for her education, Mom said, but her voice wavered. Which is exactly why it makes sense, Livia pressed. My business plan is solid. The boutique would start turning a profit within 6 months. Calla can go to community college like everyone else. I waited for Dad to defend me, to remind them about the scholarship offers, the recognition from local galleries, the years I'd spent building my portfolio. Instead, I heard the familiar creak of his chair as he leaned back. Your sister's venture does have merit, he said. And with the market being what it is. The rest of his words faded into white noise. My fingers traced the wallpaper, finding the spot where I'd once drawn a tiny flower in permanent marker. Mom had been furious, but Dad had laughed and called it my first masterpiece. I was 6 then. Things were different. It's decided then, Livia's voice cut through my memories. The college fund goes to the boutique. Livia, darling, perhaps we should discuss this with... No, Mom interrupted. Olivia is right. We need to be practical. The boutique is a sound investment. I pushed the door open. 3 heads snapped toward me, expression shifting from surprise to guilt, to, in Livia's case, something like triumph. Calla, Mom started, rising from her chair. We didn't hear you come in. Clearly, my voice sounded strange, distant. Were you planning to tell me you're giving away my future, or was I supposed to figure it out when the tuition check bounced? Don't be dramatic, Livia sighed, examining her manicure. You can still go to school, just somewhere more reasonable. Dad cleared his throat. Your sister has presented a very compelling business plan. Sometimes we have to make difficult decisions for the good of the family. The family. I laughed, the sound sharp and foreign. When has this family never made decisions for anyone except Livia? That's enough, Dad snapped. If you can't discuss this rationally, you're stealing my college fund to finance another one of Livia's schemes. Just like the fashion blog, the jewelry line, the organic cafe. Those were learning experiences, Livia cut in, her perfectly painted lips twisting. This is different. I have investors lined up, connections. Of course you do. You always do. And they always fall through. But Mom and Dad keep throwing good money after bad because heaven forbid the golden child face consequences. Guille. Mom's voice cracked like a whip. Apologize to your sister. I looked at them, really looked at them. Mom's carefully maintained facade, Dad's stern disappointment, Livia's practiced pout. They were exactly as they'd always been. And suddenly, I was tired of trying to fit into their picture-perfect family portrait. No, I said quietly. I don't think I will. I turned and walked out, ignoring their calls. My phone was already in my hand, fingers shaking as I dialed the one person who'd never let me down. Grandma, it's Calla. Can I come stay with you for a while? I need somewhere to go. Grandma Ada's spare room smelled like mothballs and possibility. Morning light streamed through dusty windows, catching the particles we'd stirred up while moving old furniture. She stood in the doorway, watching me drag a heavy dresser across worn floorboards. "We could hire someone to do this," she said, but I shook my head. "I need to do it myself." My arms ached, but each piece of furniture I moved felt like reclaiming something. Besides, I have plans for this space. Ida's eyes crinkled. "Your mother called again this morning." I kept working, focusing on the scratch of wood against wood. What did she want? The usual. To remind me that you're being unreasonable. That family should stick together. Ida's laugh was dry. "I told her that's exactly why you're here." I was about to respond when my phone buzzed. A text from Theo. "Gallery opening tonight. Bringing some people you should meet. Don't skip this one." "Good news?" Eda asked. "Maybe. There's an opening at Theo's gallery." I stopped short as voices drifted up from the driveway, familiar voices. I moved to the window, my expression darkening. "Well, this is unexpected." I joined her, my stomach dropping at the sight of Livia's red convertible. She stepped out, designer sunglasses perched on her head, followed by Dax in his perfectly tailored suit. They looked like they'd stepped out of a magazine cover, completely out of place in Ada's quiet neighborhood. "I'll handle this," Ada said, but I touched her arm. "No, let me." I straightened my paint-stained t-shirt. It's time I started handling Livia myself. I met them at the front door before they could knock. Livia's smile was razor sharp. "Baby sister," she said, "you've been ignoring our calls." "I've been busy." I blocked the doorway with my body. "What do you want?" "Can I check on my sister?" She tried to peer past me into the house. "Mom and Dad are worried sick." "They're worried about their investment," I replied. The words tasted bitter. "You mean the boutique." "Planning's going well." Dax stepped forward, all charm and perfect teeth. "Actually, that's partly why we're here. We've been thinking there might be a place for you in the business." "A place for me?" I couldn't help laughing. "Let me guess. Unpaid intern, visual merchandising director." Livia corrected, as if offering me a gift. "Your art background would be perfect. We even pay for some business courses at the community college." The audacity of it hit me like a physical blow. They'd stolen my future and now wanted to sell it back to me, piece by piece. "That's generous," I said carefully. "But I already have a job and a mentor." "Oh, right, the gallery." Livia's tone dripped with condescension. "Sweetheart, playing at being a washed-up artist isn't a career." "Theo Lang isn't washed up," I shot back. Dax interrupted smoothly. "We heard through our real estate connections the building's being sold." My chest tightened. Theo hadn't mentioned anything about losing the gallery. "You're lying." "Why would we lie?" Olia stepped closer, lowering her voice. "We're trying to help you, Kala. Come home, work with us, be part of something real." I looked at my sister, really looked at her. Behind the perfect makeup and practiced smile, I saw something I'd never noticed before: fear. Whatever was happening with the boutique, she was scared. "I am part of something real," I said finally, "and I think you should leave." I closed the door on their protests, leaning against it until I heard their car start. Upstairs, my phone buzzed again. Another text from Theo. "Important news. Need to talk before the opening." I stared at the message. Dax's words echoed in my head. Something was wrong, and for once, I intended to find out exactly what before it blindsided me. "ETA." I called up the stairs. "I need to borrow your car." Theo's gallery was dark when I arrived, but his car sat in the back lot. Through the window, I could see him hunched over his desk, surrounded by stacks of papers. My stomach nodded. Maybe Dax hadn't been lying after all. The back door clicked open at my touch. "You're getting careless," I called out. Theo's head snapped up, papers scattering. Kella, wear a bell. Sorry, I was. I stopped myself. Want to tell me about the building being sold? His expression shifted, something like guilt crossing his features. How did you? It doesn't matter. Is it true? Sit down, he gestured to a chair, but I remained standing. The owner's selling to developers. They're turning the whole block into luxury condos in 3 months. He ran a hand through his hair. I've been looking at other spaces, but the rent everywhere else. I picked up one of the scattered papers, a bank statement covered in red ink. Is that why you canceled my last 2 lessons? I demanded. Don't lie to me. My voice cracked. Not you too. Theo sighed, suddenly looking older than his 35 years. I should have told you sooner, but there's something else you need to know. He pulled out his phone, showing me a social media post. Your sister's been busy. The image showed Livia standing in front of an elegant storefront, champagne glass raised. The caption read, "Thanks to our amazing investors. Can't wait to transform this historic space into something spectacular. #Emerson Boutique." The address made my blood run cold. It was Theo's gallery. She knew, I whispered. When they came to Ada's today, they already knew. There's more. Theo handed me another paper. Your father's signature is on the investment documents. He's backing her completely. The paper crumpled in my fist. They're not just taking my college fund. They're taking everything. Not everything. Theo stood, moving to a covered canvas in the corner. Remember that piece you were working on? The one about family ties. He pulled off the sheet, revealing my unfinished painting. A tangle of golden chains breaking apart, some links tarnished and corroding. Finish it, he said. The gallery's hosting one final show before we close. Make it count. I stared at the canvas, an idea taking shape. The investors will be there, everyone who's anyone in town. Your family included. I glanced at my phone. Another text from Ida. Found something you should see. Come home when you can. I have to go, I said, already moving toward the door. But Theo, thank you for telling me the truth. GA, his voice stopped me. Whatever you're planning, just remember that revenge and justice aren't always the same thing. I thought about Livia's fear earlier, about Dad's signature on those documents, about all the times they dismissed my art as worthless while planning to destroy the one place that had believed in me. Maybe they should be the drive. The drive back to Ada's was a blur. I found her in her study, surrounded by old files and photographs. Look at this, she said, without preamble, holding out a yellowed newspaper clipping. The headline read, Local Business Empire Built on Stolen Art. Monroe Gallery Accusations Surface. Monroe Gallery. I took the clipping, but that was your grandfather's gallery before your father married into the family and merged the businesses. Ida's eyes were hard. Before certain pieces mysteriously disappeared from the collection. Why are you showing me this now? Because history has a way of repeating itself. She handed me another file, and because I think it's time you knew exactly what kind of people you're dealing with. I opened the file, and suddenly all the pieces started falling into place. The boutique, the gallery purchase, Dad's desperate need to maintain appearances. This wasn't just about my future anymore. This was about something much bigger, something that had been building for years. And I knew exactly what my next painting would be about. The cough started small, just a tickle in Ada's throat during breakfast. By afternoon, she was gasping between words, her face pale against the hospital pillows. I clutched her medical files, still warm from the printer, while doctors spoke in hushed tones outside her room. You should call your mother, Ada said, her voice raspy. I'm not calling anyone. I arranged her pillows, avoiding her knowing gaze. Besides, I need to finish the piece for Theo's final show. It's in 2 weeks. Ida caught my wrist, her grip surprisingly strong. Some things are more important than revenge. Before I could respond, a nurse bustled in with medication. My phone buzzed, Theo again. I stepped into the hallway to answer. Where are you? The collectors are here. I can't make it. Eda's in the hospital. A pause. Is she okay? They're running tests. I pressed my forehead against the cool window glass. I'll work on the piece tonight, I promise. Forget the piece. Take care of your grandmother. His voice softened. But Kala, Dax was here, asking questions about the old Monroe Gallery records. My stomach dropped. What did you tell him? Nothing, but he seemed very interested in the provenance of certain pieces. Pieces that disappeared around the time your father took over. Through the window, I watched Ida rest fitfully. The newspaper clipping she'd shown me felt heavy in my pocket. I have to go, I said, hanging up as my mother's voice echoed down the corridor. Where is she? Where's my mother? I stepped back into Ada's room just as Mom burst in, designer handbag swinging. She froze when she saw me. You didn't tell us, she accused. Funny how that feels, isn't it, girls? Ada's voice cracked between us, like a whip. Not now. Mom moved to the bed, her perfect makeup already smudging. The doctor said pneumonia. Why didn't you call us sooner? Because I'm handling it, I said, but the words sounded hollow, even to me. Like you're handling everything else. Mom's laugh was bitter. Your father had to hear about your special piece for Theo's show from his investors. They're worried about negative publicity. They should be. What's that supposed to mean? She asked. Ask Dad about the Monroe Gallery pieces. I pulled out the newspaper clipping. Ask him what really happened to Grandpa's collection. Mom's face went white. Behind her, Ada started coughing again, harder this time. You don't understand what you're talking about, Mom whispered. I understand enough. I moved toward the door. Tell Dad his secrets aren't safe anymore. Neither is Livia's. Kala, wait. But I was already gone, running down sterile corridors, until I reached Eda's car. My hands shook as I started the engine. The drive to my makeshift studio was automatic, muscle memory taking over while my mind raced. The canvas waited, half-finished, golden chains transforming into serpents, family portraits burning at the edges. But it wasn't enough anymore. Not with Ida lying in that hospital bed, not with everything I'd learned. My phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. Smart girl, digging up the past. Want to know more? D. Dax. Of course, he played both sides. I started to delete the message, then stopped. Maybe it was time to fight fire with fire. I picked up my brush, staring at the canvas. The piece needed something else, not just exposure, but truth. Real truth, not just revenge. Ida's words echoed in my head. Some things are more important than revenge. She was right, but sometimes justice and revenge could be the same thing if you were willing to pay the price. I texted back one word. When Dax was waiting in the corner booth of the diner, his perfect suit out of place among the vinyl seats and chipped coffee cups, he pushed a manila envelope across the table before I could sit down. Everything you need to know about the Monroe Gallery scandal, he said, including what your father did to your grandfather's collection. I left the envelope untouched. Why are you helping me? Let's just say Livia isn't the only one with investment troubles. His smile didn't reach his eyes. The boutique is hemorrhaging money before it even opens. Your father's desperate enough to leverage everything, including pieces that technically don't belong to him. The stolen artwork. Borrowed, he corrected smoothly, though the original owners might disagree. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Ida's asking for you. Please come back. What do you want in return? I asked, Dax ignoring the message. Protection. When this breaks, I want it clear I helped expose the truth. He leaned forward, and I want my initial investment back. How much? 200,000. Your sister's quite persuasive when she wants something. The amount hit me like a physical blow. That was more than my college fund. More than... Another text. Her fever's worse. She needs you here. I have to go. I stood, finally taking the envelope. But this doesn't make us allies. Of course not. His smile widened. By the way, how's dear grandmother Ida? I heard she's not doing well. The threat in his voice was subtle, but clear. I left without responding, the envelope burning in my bag. At the hospital, I found Theo outside his room. His expression was grim. What are you doing here? Your mother called me. He nodded toward the room. She's been asking for you. Talking about some old paintings in her attic. My heart stuttered. What paintings? He caught my arm as I moved toward the door. Whatever you're planning with Dax, be careful. He's not on your side. No one is. That's not true, and you know it. Inside, Ada was propped up against pillows, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. Mom sat beside her, holding her hand. There she is. Ada's voice was barely a whisper. My art. I'm here. I took her other hand, noticing how cold her fingers felt. I'm sorry I left the paintings, she said. In my attic, behind the false wall. Mom's head snapped up. What false wall? Your father's favorites. Ada's eyes found mine. The ones he couldn't bear to sell. I kept them safe all these years. Mother, what are you talking about? But I knew. The missing pieces from the Monroe Gallery, the ones Dad had supposedly sold to cover debts. The ones he was now using as collateral for Livia's failing boutique. Show them. Ada squeezed my hand. Show everyone the truth. But remember, the truth without compassion is just another weapon. Her monitors started beeping faster. Mom jumped up to call for nurses while I stood frozen, the weight of Ada's words settling over me like a shroud. My phone buzzed one final time. Dax again. Tick-tock. The boutique opens in a week. How much is your silence worth? I looked at Ida, fighting for breath in her hospital bed. At Mom, her carefully maintained facade cracking. At the envelope in my bag that could destroy everything. The truth without compassion is just another weapon. But sometimes I thought, watching the nurses rush in, sometimes weapons are exactly what you need. I pulled out my phone and texted Theo, the final show. I know what I need to paint. It was time to stop playing defense. Time to show them all exactly what art could do. The gallery hummed with opening night energy. Champagne glasses clinking as Seattle's elite circled my paintings like vultures. My centerpiece remained covered, a massive canvas that had consumed the last week of my life. Theo kept shooting me worried glances from across the room.